Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Friday's always the end of the week for most. For me, it's a very important day, and you've heard me state this before, but Fridays are that day that we want to work twice as hard because everyone else is working half as hard if you want to get the same results. That's the credo. So, and that may very well fit my subject matter for today a little bit. Um, we talk a lot about business design, managing time, sales theory. Next week, I plan to give a pretty solid series on sales. I jump around a little bit between entrepreneurship, business management, time management, and sales. But next week, I'm planning to have a solid morning mindset week for sales. So for any of you that are in the sales arena, either working with me with the Beto Paredes family companies as a rep or anywhere else, then tomorrow, I apologize, next week is going to be a really good time for you to jump on. We're going to really talk about sales. It'll be a good week. But today, my subject matter is important and a very important subject. So if you're new to the morning mindset, welcome. My name is Beto Paredes. We do these most mornings, unless for some reason I get tied up or if I'm traveling, but I do try to let everybody know that ahead of time. So keep an eye on your email for those updates. But for the most part, when I'm here in the office, I am doing a morning mindset every morning. I do these for you. I do these for myself. I do these so that we can get our day started and be solid. So get a pen, get a notebook, and take some good notes. I've got a really good subject here today. So pick your moment of execution. And there I am again, not turning my phone off for the mindset. 1 second, guys. I just did that. Got to remember to do that, or people call me in the middle of it, right? So basically, here we are, Friday. Pick your moment of execution. So, what are we talking about? If you're in sales, this is probably one of the most important things you can think through, especially if you're learning new information. Okay, if you're getting into a new sales program, maybe you're new here with the Beto Paredes family of companies and you just got through training. You've really got to think about your moment of execution, because if there's, for example, a requirement for you to get your pipeline started. Okay, any of you that are in sales, you know what that means. It means that you've got to start making all of your initial contacts. You've got to start making all of your initial calls, and to get into a healthy pipeline, which means that you've been doing it for some time and your pipeline's starting to get full, and you've got people that you're putting in that are new, people that you're dealing with that are in the middle of the closing cycle, and those that are close to closing. Well, when you're first starting, this is especially important because what you're doing is building that pipeline. You want to build it quickly. So there's all kinds of stuff that we're doing in our businesses that's working on contracting, training. It could be a number of different things that are requirements on us that aren't really built around massive execution. They're more built around finishing, doing things that are important, writing content. I do a lot of that. Well, when you get into a particular day and you're planning, let's say, to make some sales calls today, well, it's very important that you make a very strong decision around the fact that that's what you're going to be doing today. And so you want to move everything you must away from your time period of massive action. So if I'm going to start building my pipeline today, now Fridays I wouldn't say are the best day to start. Tuesdays are honestly the best day to start. But again, you remember, work twice as hard to get the same results. So maybe today is your day. But the reality behind it is, if you're going to start filling your pipeline, you're doing a very straightforward numbers game based execution. You're going to try to call as many companies as you can, get in contact with as many people as you can, and not give up, nor fall prey to, well, I made 15 calls, I still got to get this contract done, and I'm going to work on the contract. Because what ends up happening is, especially if things are challenging, okay, making calls are challenging. Doing introductory phone calls are not the easiest things, especially if you don't know who you're calling and it's the first time introduction, any of those things. And we're just using this as an example. This massive execution could be on anything that's got this vertical variance to it, meaning it's an endless operative that you have, like making calls is endless. And so it's the day you're doing it. Put everything else aside purposely. Don't work on the contract. Don't write the content. And don't let yourself fall prey to getting through 15, 20 calls and being like, oh, I'm just going to work on that contract now. I made these calls. They were good. They were bad. They were okay. I sent out a couple proposals. I've got a couple of meetings set. I did pretty good. Don't think that way. Set a very strict time frame for massive action. Maybe that's 6 hours. Maybe that is between 9 o'clock and noon and 1 o'clock and 4 or 1 o'clock and 5 in a particular day. Set everything else aside and don't allow yourself to be pulled away from the activity that you're planning to execute. Okay, you want to execute with the intent to drive results. Okay, when you're in a model such as sales, you are working very specifically to do a number of things. First and foremost is numbers. Okay, so it doesn't matter what sales trainer talks about it, numbers matter. Okay, now you can culture that down to very important aspects like knowing your product, doing good opportunity presentations, knowing how to get through gatekeepers. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and we're going to be really kind of talking a lot more about sales next week. But if you're going to take the time to really do something that's vertical, like making calls, and again, like I said, if you're calling companies, there's millions of companies out there, depending on what products that you're selling, hundreds of thousands potentially. There's no way you're going to get through in one particular day, all of them, maybe not even in a particular week. Okay. So you want to execute with the intent to drive results. Move everything you must away from your time period of massive action, and then take action, hustle, really, really work to get as many results as you possibly can out of the time period that you've given yourself. If something pops up, a phone call comes in, or any other thing comes in that distracts you, unless it is just absolutely critical that you answer that call or do the things that would pull you away from taking this massive action, don't get out of that mind frame. Because what happens is when we get out of the mind frame of taking massive action on something specific, it takes time to get back into it. And if you complicate what you're doing with other directives, well, now you've got other things on your mind and you're taking up energy. So you hear me talk about this a lot in a lot of my mindsets concerning how much psychic energy that you have, right? Your brain is like your body, right? It's got a certain amount of energy and that energy gets expended. So if you end up doing various things during this time that you've set aside to take massive action on something, then you're just increasing the amount of psychic energy that's needed in order to take action. So in other words, your brain's busy and it doesn't just turn things off. So maybe I did start working on a paper, but now the variables of what could have improved my content, let's just say for that paper, sits there and turns around in my mind when I get back to the massive action that I've got planned. Okay, and that kind of brings me to another point that I think is very important with these things. If you're going to do something of high structure that's got this vertical ideology in it, start early. Okay, don't put a whole lot of directives. Okay, I'm going to come into work, I'm going to finish these 15 things, and then I'm going to start taking massive action in the afternoon. Make it, at least if you're going to make a decision between a time frame, morning or afternoon, make it the morning. Okay, don't get a bunch of stuff going on in your brain that's going to stop you from being very concentrated on the directive that you have. Okay, and just again, back to sales as a simple philosophy. Today, I'm going to take massive action. I'm going to call 100 companies. Okay, now I don't know how many of you have ever dialed for dollars on this stuff, but calling 100 companies is actually very difficult. Okay, because if you get into conversations with companies or you actually get the CEO or the decision maker on the phone, that 5-minute call can go into a 25-minute call. And that is your second pitfall. Let's say I have 3 really good conversations this morning, sent out paperwork, I sent out a sales deck, and they were highly interested. They were very, very, very welcoming with the idea of working with you, talking to you. And you kick back and you're like, man, that really worked. I got 3 of these guys in. I did something today. I feel good about it. And pretty soon you're stretching, you're walking over to the water cooler, you're relaxing a little bit. So don't let that happen to you either. Remember, if you're going to take a massive movement into something that you're trying to accomplish, don't let success get in your way either. Okay, so get through the call. If it's a great call, spend the time you need to spend. Don't be in a big hurry to get off the phone. That's always a terrible idea. But move forward, even if you have success early. Let's say it's 9:30 and you've had 3 great calls in that time period. Well, it's not that you set that smaller time period for your execution. It's the time period you set. Maybe that's 9 to noon and 1 to 4, whatever it is. Stay focused and get as many results out of that time frame as you've set. Okay, so now this is another thing that I want to bring up. Plan this out a little bit better. Okay, you want to have a little bit more of a plan in place. And what I mean by that is it's not that you just want to jump out of bed Friday morning, here we are, listening to Beto talking about this and be like, he's right, and just act like a bull in a china shop with broken plates everywhere because you didn't take time to plan it intelligently. Okay, you want to set aside a day, 2 days, 3 days a week, okay, maybe more, especially if you're tracking hard in this situation where you know that there's not going to be really high requirements on your time from things that you needed to get done, and you've just decided to put them aside and just make today that day. Okay, plan a little bit. And I don't mean plan for next year or next month. I mean plan for maybe tomorrow, right? Or I guess in our case, it would be Monday. But make a plan so that you can think about everything. You just really need to get out of the way. Maybe you need to make a couple of partner phone calls, call some of the members of your sales team, whatever it might be. Get those things out of the way so when that day comes, that time comes, if that's tomorrow, Monday, however it is, that you can actually hit it really hard, and that you know that if you decide to stop taking those actions during that time period, that you're really just making excuses. Okay, you've got to actually have that in your mind. You know, listen, I can actually get this done tomorrow. I didn't plan to do this today. I'm going to take action today. I'll get this done tomorrow morning at 8, right? And so just stay the course on what you're doing. So pick your moment of execution. Pick it intelligently. Make sure you're giving yourself a large enough time frame. Don't tell yourself, tomorrow I'm going to call 2 hours. I mean, if that's all the time you have, that's okay. All right, but if you're going to take massive action on something, man, own the day. Make it the majority of what you're doing for that day, at least 80%. Okay, so pick your moment of execution, move everything you must away from your time period of massive action, and execute with the intent to drive results. Okay, and I can't tell you how important this is, even for me or anybody else in business, even for as long as I've been doing things. I still have to stop myself, realize that there's some very, very high intense vertical movement that I need to make personally, and set that time aside and plan that intelligently. So this is a constant thing that you've always got to be thinking about. And if I was to give you any suggestions, if you do work in sales, at least 70% of your week should be in this mode. Okay, if you're spending less than 70% of your week hammering the phones, looking for prospects, in cycle, then you're conditioning yourself poorly. Okay, you don't want to do that. You want to spend at least 70% of your week doing the activities, which I like to call income generating activities that actually make you money. Now, this is an interesting thing. A lot of you that have known me for a minute, you know, I've done a lot in multi-level. I'm really a lot more involved in business to business. I like that field a lot better. But I learned this when I was from a very effective leader, that training on a program, learning the information, getting the product knowledge, practicing your pitch, having conversations with management, having conversations with team members is not income generating activity. All right, so you want at least 70% of your week to be income generating activity. Income generating activity is very straightforward. Picking up the phone, calling new prospects, checking in with prospects that are already in the pipe, that are potentially going to be closing, that are potentially going to be looking at your opportunity slides, dealing with that environment. That is income generating activity. So you really want to score yourself and say, I need massive action at least 70% of my week where I am in motion working on income generating activities, not sitting around thinking about it, not training on the products, although that stuff's very important to do. but that's not income generating activity. Okay, learning things better doesn't make you money. Taking action and actually pushing forward, meeting new people, talking with new businesses, getting back to the people that have already heard your pitch, seeing where they're at, that's income generating activity. And you really should be spending about 70% of your week doing that. So, well, thank you for joining. I actually had a pretty good crowd here for a Friday. Pretty awesome. I absolutely will be here on Monday. So the morning mindset will run on Monday. Love to have you guys join. And let's get some fire in our cup and get out there and make Friday matter, right? Got to work twice as hard today if you want to get the same results because everyone else is working half as hard. Let's not be everyone else, okay? Have a great day, and I'll see you again on Monday.